It is a great day to be alive, and I am so thankful for God, Jesus Christ, who lives in us. Today's video titled, The Diddy Trial and Grayscale ETF Timeline, we're going to focus on XRP. As it relates to this Grayscale ETF, I have shared in the past how Diddy is connected to XRP and why. And so I want to continue with that demonstration as we take a look at what has happened with the Diddy trial, and also what is taking place with XRP and Ripple. Before we get started, I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing that I'm sharing is financial advice. I'm simply sharing dreams, visions, and interpretations that I feel God has given me as it relates to crypto. Now, let's get into the video. So here are the two videos where I share the original or the dream about Diddy. So we're looking at Diddy, who's dealing with his trial and case situation, and we're also looking at Ripple, who's dealing with their trial and case situation. In this dream, I shared how Diddy was excited. He was smiling. He was talking a whole lot, and I was trying to warn him about something. I was trying to tell him something. I don't know what that something was, but I understood. I had this feeling of prayer, pray for him. And so I did. Waking up from this dream, as I've already shared, I wasn't sure if this was indicating that Diddy would get off free with what was happening or taking place with his trial. But after looking at his birthday, I realized that his birthday was November 4th, and that was a date that I had already been sharing in the past as it relates to XRP. So now I have two individuals that share the same birthday, November 4th, and that is connected to XRP. And here is that XRP key. Of course, there are several indicators on here, but for this, we're focusing on November the 4th. So since having this dream, a lot of great things have transpired with the Ripple case and with XRP. But also after having this dream, I knew what to watch for. Watch for close or same time events taking place that has to do with the Diddy trial as well as Ripple and XRP. So this dream again was on March the 1st, 2024, and looking for that close or same time news event. On March the 19th, 18 days later, we get news from Brad Garlinghouse saying the SEC case had ended. Now, a few weeks ago, I put out this video that is titled XRP ETF Date. And God had been leading me in the direction of ETFs. And I have been working daily on, just praying, asking God to help me if there's anything I need to know about this ETF date as it relates to ETFs in the U.S. I know that He's led me to Canada's ETF, spot ETF for XRP, but I am working on one for the US. Is there a specific date, time frame? Continuing on with that, I want to share what I know now, and I want to focus on the flower moon. So in that video, I was making comparisons between XRP and Ethereum and how that Tupac is connected to Ethereum and Elon is connected to XRP. At the same time, there's a moon phase, a full moon phase that represents each individual. The flower moon is represented by Tupac, and the blue moon is represented by Elon. So those are similarities. Also, their birthday. They're born in the same year, 1971, and born in the same month. Again, looking at similarities, trying to make an ETF connection. Well, the ETF date for Ethereum came out on May 23rd, which is a flower moon date. That flower moon date was also on my market crash timeline. And on that same day, Ethereum ETF was approved, spot ETF. All of this makes sense simply because Tupac is correlated with the Ethereum crash. And red and yellow is also associated with the crash. Looking at both sides, I'm not looking for a crash. I am making comparisons to try to derive an ETF date. Now, let's compare Tupac and Diddy as it relates to Ethereum and XRP. They both represent a crypto coin. They both are music artists. They both at the time had ongoing trials. And finally, they both are connected to a flower moon or ETF event. Why do I say that? Well, Diddy's trial started on May the 12th. Also on May the 12th, there was a flower moon. After I saw this, I knew I was on the path to understanding more about this XRP spot ETF that was coming. Because last year, the ETF occurred on the flower moon. This year, I'm given a clue, and that clue is the Diddy trial. Flower moon equals ETF news. Diddy is connected to XRP. There's an XRP ETF coming, and this ETF news will be close to the time when we hear major news about this trial. Because again, the trial started on the day of the flower moon for this year. So I'm going to call this both awaiting deliberation. On June 30th, we heard news that the jury would start their deliberations. And also on June 30th, there was news that came out about Grayscale and their deadline of July 2nd to hear what the SEC would say about their ETF approval. And of course, XRP is within that bundle. Verdicts are in. As far as Grayscale, the SEC approved its crypto ETF holdings for BTC, XRP, and Ethereum. And as far as Diddy goes, the verdicts are in, but on this day, not all of them. Major news and Ripple news come out on the same day. This is aside from the ETF, just showing the pattern that when major news come out about Diddy, there's major news that will come out about Ripple. And in this case, Ripple seeks a U.S. banking license. And as for Diddy, all the verdicts are in, and he is found not guilty on major accounts, but guilty on lesser charges. Also on July 2nd, Diddy was denied bail. And I'm calling this bail denied must stay. Also on July 2nd, more news about the Grayscale ETF. The ETF was approved the day before for the bundle that included the XRP. Grayscale getting the approval to be able to convert these coins. And attached to this approval letter, I'm reading that there was something within that letter that stated that although Grayscale had been approved to do this, there was still a specific time, a time of stay on their ability to actually convert at this time. So Grayscale must stay on their ability to convert, and also Diddy must stay because he was denied bail. Going back to the comparisons between Tupac and Ethereum and Diddy and XRP, I will now place the SEC approval for Grayscale's ETF holding for BTC, XRP, and Ethereum. And now I want to show how I'm connecting Diddy to this diagram. Of course, Diddy is already connected to XRP because of his birthday. That would be the blue colors. And then the yellow and red would be flower moon for this year, which is the date that his trial began. Focusing on the trial only, and the two colors that relates to the trial, which will be yellow and red. Adding 100 days to the date that this trial ended will give me October the 10th. Looking at what should be his sentencing date, October 3rd is very close to my derived date. However, things may change. It wouldn't surprise me if they move the trial date to October the 10th, but that is what I have right now. This would be my thinking along the lines of deriving a date for his trial. But being that it's already given, October the 3rd, we would take that and wait to see what happens if that changes to the October 10th date. So again, all of this is confirmation to me how God is using different individuals, different dates to help derive what type of events are about to take place, what to look out for. And so again, once I discovered that his trial date started on May the 12th, and that was a flower moon, and how that correlated with the flower moon from last year when Ethereum had its ETF approved, I knew that the topic of ETF was coming around the corner for XRP. That is all that I have for this video. Until the next one, God bless.